Today in the show, I have the pleasure of speaking with another cracking expat who's making waves here in the United States. Jens Nielsen is originally from Denmark. He immigrated to the United States way back in 1996. Over the years, Jens has developed a career in IT, but once here in the United States, he found a passion for real estate, which is very similar to my story. Jens has been investing in real estate for the past 3 years, and in that time, he has built a personal portfolio of over 82 units and has passively invested in 12 multifamily and mobile home park syndications. Jens has a passion for building wealth for his family and investors, raising money for syndications, and coaching new investors about this opportunity. Jens, really pumped and excited to have you on the show. I'm going to shut up now, but welcome to the show. How you doing today, mate?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Reed. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to visit with you today. It's really great to talk to another expat who has found, made the U.S. his homeland. So that's really awesome. I'm super excited about being on.
Mate, my pleasure. I always love chatting with other expats. We were just talking a little bit in the green room about where you are originally from, and we will get into that in a little bit because you do have an accent. But before we do, I always ask all my guests on this show, can you rewind the clock and tell me how you made your first ever dollar as a kid?
Yeah, so it wasn't a dollar because it was actually Danish kroners back then, right?
It's still Danish kroner, right?
It still is. Yeah, they did not convert to the euro. So, so I think, the first job was actually kind of helping out. I grew up in a countryside, did not grow up on a farm myself, but there were a lot of farms and, dairy farms around. So I actually was helping out on the farms, tending to the animals, working in, various jobs there after school. So that was just kind of a cool way to earn a little pocket money, hang out with my friends, and just kind of be outside, working my hands. So that was kind of the first. And I was probably 12, 13 back then, It's a different world. You just ride your bike up there, your bicycle up there, work for a couple of hours and come home. And
cash in hand, I would assume.
Yeah, so that was really awesome. I enjoyed that a lot.
And so you grew up in Denmark. Whereabouts? I've been to Copenhagen 10 years ago. Whereabouts in Denmark did you?
Yeah, so kind of in the southwestern part, more towards the German border, just a little north of the German border, rural, basically. I didn't go to the big city until I was in my late teens. I did live in Copenhagen a while before I left, but that was probably 92, 93, that time frame I was living there. So.
Awesome. So, fill in the gap. So you're working as a kid on the dairy farms. I mentioned in the introduction, you're in IT. You moved obviously to the United States here in 1996, but what was that journey into the United States, going through college? What did you study? And ultimately your journey here to the US soil? Yeah,
it was kind of I guess we all have interesting stories, right? I was actually working in Copenhagen I was in telecommunication then, in my early 20s. And I got this call from a vendor we had from London, actually. So it's a circuitous route. He's like, yeah, we have a big contract over here in London. We need somebody to help us, with this installation and stuff like that. So I was like, and he's like, do you want to work for me in London? It's like, yeah, what can possibly go wrong? So 23-year-old, I moved to London, England. And that was a bit of I came from, a city of 1 million to 8, 9 million, whatever it is in London. Yep. And a new language. And I spoke English, but it wasn't very good. So I had to learn that and everything else. So that was a culture shock for sure to go there. But I really had a lot of fun there for sure,
Right.
And then the same company was actually an American company. And then a couple of years later, they say, well, we have more work in the U.S. and actually in Southeast Asia and other places. Do you want to transfer to the U.S.? I said, sure, let's do that. And the interesting thing was I actually did not have a college degree then. I had more of a vocational degree in Denmark. And they're more common there than they are here. So when I came here, I actually ended up going to school too. I went to, got my undergrad and my master's degree in University of Maryland in computer system management and IT, basically. So, I subscribe to this idea of get a good education, get a good job, and save in your 401k, and then maybe one day you can retire, right? So that was kind of the entry point to it all.
That's interesting that you came. Talk a little bit maybe about the vocational training in Denmark versus maybe here in the United States where everyone's got to go to university. So when you went back to uni, did you have an advantage because you'd been in the workforce in IT already, grinding and understanding more the commercial aspect of it? Did that make you a better student when you did go back to school?
That's a good question. So just back to the vocational. So, Denmark, it's really a 4-year program, and you can learn to be an electrician, a plumber, a carpenter, whatever those trades are that are highly valued, and it's really just another education. So I did that. And then when I decided to go to college here, I had found what my, passion. I have a passion for IT. I like technology. So I knew already that was really something I enjoyed doing. So it makes sense. And I was really committed and dedicated to get this done as soon as possible, as quickly as possible. Right. So,
and how old were you when you went back to school?
26, 27, something like that.
You would have been a senior student, right?
Well, yeah, but this was more of a program for adult learners. So
got it.
Evenings and weekend classes and some online stuff. So it helped,
whilst working full time, right?
Yes. And actually racing my bike. That's my other passion is bicycling. So I was bicycle racing too at the same time. So
it's funny. Europeans love their cycling. I'm originally from Holland. The Dutch love it. The Danish love it. The Swedes love it. The French love it. The Italians. It's in your blood. I don't know what it is about the Europeans. They just love to ride bikes.
Yeah. So
it would have been a big culture shock coming to the United States back in '96.
Oh, God.
Where cycling wouldn't have been a thing compared to what it is today, right?
Mountain biking was just taking off, actually, and that's kind of what I got into. So, there was a scene of mountain biking that I kind of got involved in, and I enjoyed that a lot. And that's actually been kind of because I moved throughout the country and I was looking for a place that had good access to trails and stuff like that.
You're more into mountain biking and off-roading rather than street racing, sort of,
Yeah, it's a mix. I've done it all pretty much, for the last many years. So.
You've ever visited the Tour de France?
I have not been to that one. I have ridden my bike in some of the same mountains there, but not actually visited the race. So.
Wow. Yeah, no, I remember being many, many years ago, back in 2000, probably I think it was 9. I was at the start of the Tour de France in Monaco.
Oh, wow.
In south of France. And it was bigger than Ben-Hur. It was just crazy. All the fans, and it's really exciting. It's a very if anyone is in Europe in the summer, I'd highly recommend it. But mate, let's get into the nuts and bolts of today's show, which is what we got you on here. Is really your journey into real estate investing whilst working full time. So talk to me. In the introduction, I said you've only been investing for 3 years, but in that 3 years, you've got 82 units. You've been investing in syndication. Maybe before we get into the how you did it, what was the why to get involved in real estate investing in the first place?
I've been, as I mentioned, in IT for 20 some years, and it's been a good career, good pay and everything else. But I also realized if I stop working tomorrow, I stop making any money, right?
Right.
Obviously saving in, retirements and everything else, but that doesn't help me until I get a little bit older than I am. So it's like, there was just something missing. There's something like control of my own destiny, kind of lack of that.
Yep.
So I decided, so I was like, kicked around all these different ideas and nothing really took. And then I started, just researching real estate, listening to some, podcasts and audiobooks and read some books. I was like, man, this makes a lot of sense, right? Because it's tangible asset, you can go and you can see it, you can feel it, and you're not at as much of a whim to the general sentiment or the market for stocks and bonds and stuff like that, So, and I'm not really, I tend to take quick decisions once I've made up my mind, like when I moved to the UK very quickly and stuff like that. So I started studying it and got connected with some investors I know in my local town, and they're like, this is how you look at the numbers, this is how you do it, and then you should call up this guy. And most of my properties, my personal portfolio is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he's like, You should call up this guy. He's a broker. He'll help you out. And so I got the connection, and, we found some deals that weren't too expensive. And I felt like, well, what can possibly go wrong? Right. So, and we just jumped into it, bought a couple of smaller properties and for my personal portfolio. And then I also I really want to move out of the stock market in my in my IRAs and stuff like that, and really started investing in syndication through that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And so Albuquerque, New Mexico, is that where you live right now, or is that just your investing market?
No, I'm in southwestern Colorado in a small town called Durango. So it's, everybody thinks Denver when they hear about Colorado, but I'm like 6.5 hours by car away from Denver. So
interesting.
Yeah.
We actually just invested in a new hemp deal out of Sun Valley, I think it's called. So a little bit off topic, but it's out in the Colorado southwest of Denver. So we're out there checking out on the investment. I'll have to shoot you a line. But back to the mindset of changing, going from a W-2. Did you feel unfulfilled in your job? Like, is that why you went and tried to scratch that itch of ultimately breaking out of your day job?
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't see any exit path beyond, working for another 20 years, right? And I was like, what can I do that can really, that can change that trajectory, right? And yeah, so it was just a mindset shift around chart your own future. Don't let somebody else, don't work on somebody else's agenda, and so that was just, hey, where can I take control and how can I take control, and that was, I felt like this was, and not just getting another job, right? It's easy to go out there, I want to be an independent contractor. Well, that's just another job. And once you stop working there, the money goes away, right? So that's.
And did you have a specific number in mind that you want to try and replace your income in order to become financially free with your investing?
Yeah, I kind of know. Me and my wife, we know what our monthly expenditures are. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of our freedom number. And if we can reach that from passive investing, then not necessarily need to quit my job, but at least I know I have the flexibility, right?
Right.
And that was kind of the initial, like, if I can just get to that, then I feel much, I don't know, have some, safety or whatever you want to call it, right? In that.
Right. A safety net for the future. And I can imagine, like myself, going through that turmoil of how do you balance both things, right? Your day job, plus trying to look for these deals, plus trying to be educated. And you've done it in 3 short years, which is pretty incredible. So how do you manage your time? Because a lot of people struggle with that aspect. And I guess to add to that, a lot of people, particularly who listen to the show or many other podcasts out there that want to break free, they don't necessarily understand that for a period of time, it will probably entail 2 jobs because you've got to educate yourself, right? You've got to spend your nights and your weekends out there looking for deals and uncovering. So what sort of message do you have for those types of people? And then what was your sort of story and if there was a struggle balancing the 2?
Yeah, I mean, nothing that's worth having comes easy, right?
I love it, yeah.
And if we are motivated enough to really change our future, then we got to make the sacrifice, and a lot of people, we want instant results and instant gratification. And that's not the case here, right? So really what I did, right, I just started saying, okay, where can I carve out some time, right? Doing this right on my lunch break, right?
Right.
So just taking those times you have, weekends, I have every other Friday off work. So I use that and just basically be very focused. I don't go home and turn on the TV and zone out, right? I have some dinner and then, another couple of hours of studying real estate or reaching out to brokers or investors or whatever it is, just being super organized around it and set your goals. Like another big thing is plan your week, plan your day and see what are you trying to achieve this week, and then really work on those things, because if you don't live intentionally, life just happens to you, right?
Right. I think, you completely living intentionally is really important, specifically around time management if you do have a full-time job. So is there any tips or tricks that you do personally that help you stay motivated after a huge long day of work, that you don't just sit on the couch and veg out and, turn on Netflix?
Yeah. I mean, staying, eating healthy, staying fit, I still ride my bike, I try to just exercise, get your body to move and stay fit that way. No, I think, I do, sometimes feel a little drained when I get home, but usually just hang out with my wife a bit, maybe eat something, then I tend to feel better and I can, kick out another couple of hours, And then
Does your wife ever give you any grief about, getting back into the grind after you've come home from the grind?
She's super supportive of the whole thing because she realizes the benefit too. But, something's got to give, right? And I try to be conscious about making sure I don't neglect her as well. So.
Exactly. It's coming down to balancing those priorities in life versus your goals, right? I talk a little bit on this show about the differences between what a priority is and what a goal is. And a priority is, loved ones, keeping fit, keeping healthy, making sure that you're, if you're into spiritually or meditation or anything like that, there's kind of the priorities are sort of the long-term things that keep you on your track towards your goals. Because if you don't have those things, the rails that you go through life in can get a bit rusty. So, and then on the other side of the coin, you have your goals, right? And the goals are these, financial freedom and X amount of units and, living with your freedom number, blah, blah, blah. And it's trying to balance both of them. So do you have any other, conundrums that you have faced in your journey along towards financial freedom that has really stood out in terms of trying to juggle both of it from a time aspect or from a, priorities, like making sure you got your priorities straight and versus achieving your goals?
Just what do you spend your time on, right? What's important to you? Fitness has always been hugely important to me, but it has to give, right? I can't spend quite as much time as I used to do riding my bike, for example, right?
Right.
Going out with my friends and hang out with them, I try to be more intentional around that and said, okay, if I go and meet with some people, is there an opportunity to connect and talk about real estate, right? Because then there's like, that's helpful too, right? And kind of making sure your peer group appreciate what you're doing, right? And stuff like that.
You hit two birds with one stone. So.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to say everything has, a hidden agenda or something like that, but it's useful. And I think, really we gotta be super, we got to think about what and who and how do we spend our time, right? And I think that's going back to the setting goals and being deliberate about that. That's really something that I've gotten better at,
Yeah. I know when I was struggling through that, the double grind, I used to call it, like you're doing your full-time job, you're trying to look for deals, you're trying to find capital for your deals. And it's just like sort of, I call it like the spinning plate analogy. If you can think of like long sticks with spinning plates, those not clowns, but people in the circus who can spin.
Yeah, sure.
You've got, like 5 different plates spinning. It just all seems to be, very precarious, up there. And it's sometimes there's little tools and tricks that I used to do was like really be time blocking, which was like, okay, I'm coming, it's after work, back when I was working full time, and I'd say, okay, I've got an hour with the wife or your girlfriend or the kids or whatever you got, and then or 2, whatever it is, and then I want 2 hours of turn the phone off, turn Instagram off, turn Facebook off, and you're being very intentional about that 2 hours. And say, I've only got 2 hours, got 2 hours in the morning or 2 hours in the afternoon. You might even have 2 hours in the evening, or whatever it is, but making sure you're being intentional and time block that and get all the distractions out of your way, and be intentional with telling other people around you, don't, dad or, your boyfriend or whatever, your girlfriend or family members, like, I have to do this in order to get us to this next step in our life. Yeah. And as I said, I think your intentionality is really important, but some stuff has to give, right? I work out, try to work out a lot, but even now when I'm in my full-time business, it's, you're sort of been pulled in 27 different directions, trying to be focused on those priorities again, like making sure you're healthy, making sure you spend time with the family, making sure that you spend time with loved ones, and, make sure if you're into meditation or spirituality or anything like that, you're making time for that in order to keep on track towards your goals.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments in and around that sort of stuff?
No, I think also, the idea of getting help, we are entrepreneurs, so control freaks, and we want to do everything ourselves. So just kind of like, okay, what's value add task that I'm doing here versus something I should have somebody else do, right? So
that's interesting.
Or
you struck a chord there, because we're all in our own businesses, right? Where we all start out being entrepreneurs as Reed Goossen's business or Jens Nielsen's business. Like,
Yeah.
have you farmed out anything, any medial tasks in your path towards financial freedom in terms of juggling, the day-to-day in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I was a guy who would do everything myself, and I'm still working down that path. But I would do my own tax returns, and I would do all my own accounting and all that stuff, right? Because I didn't really make that. This is like $15 or $20 an hour work versus $1,000 an hour work finding a deal, right? So that really, I started outsourcing, getting other people to do some of that stuff, right? And so that's really, I just think you need to, kind of think about where's your time best spent, and I'm reading this book right now, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, I think his name is.
Yeah.
And it's that thing about working on your business versus in your business is so rings true. The business is not for you. The business is for your customers. And try to, it's just, I just love all the stuff I'm learning and growing and stuff.
So you've outsourced a couple of your medial tasks. I always talk about it in different, back to time blocking, looking at your calendar in every week. And okay, and I use 3 different colors. I use black, blue, and red. So black is like podcasting and, thinking about the next book and trying to find that next deal or whatever. Blue might be the underwriting, right? Underwriting day-to-day tasks that you have to do. And then red's all the administration stuff. And as the leader in your business, my personal belief is that you need to be at least 60 to 70% in the black with maybe 20 to 30% in the blue, and no time in the red. You don't need to be in it because it's not worth, as you just said, you can hire that out for $15 an hour where you go and finding another deal. It could be $1,000 an hour is just so much better. And when you start looking at your calendar and circling things that you do every week, what's red, what's blue, what's black, you can really start to visualize what is not important and things that and tasks that you can, carve off to someone else.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to talk. I love this topic because particularly where you are right now in your business, you're realizing that need, right? Otherwise you're going to not be effective. Those spinning plates are going to fall down and crash.
Right. Yeah. So I love that analogy. So do you kind of like track every hour, every 50 minutes of your work to figure out making sure that it's...
Look, it's personally for me, it's I'm always working on it. It's always, there's no silver bullet. It's a learned task. And through this podcast, through developing my own business, and, I'm very much like yourself. I'm an engineer, black and white brain, not necessarily understanding the art of building a business and building systems. So I've had to go out and learn. So back to your question on me, and this is not about me, but this is about you. Is yes, definitely try and not to the hour, but I'm trying to do this new task called time blocking, which is you set like not on your phone, but you set like an egg timer for like an hour. And you turn everything else off and you do the black stuff, the stuff that's really going to move the needle, whether it's underwriting a deal or cold calling for whatever it might be, or driving for dollars, or in my business, it's about content creation right now. So, and then after that hour, you're allowed 10 minutes break. And I just interviewed someone, Steve Griffith, a couple of podcasts before, and he was talking about time cleansing. And he was talking about this time blocking exercise. And he says when you start, you may get 3 hours in the day where you sit down to do that, right? But you soon realize how hard it is to block everything out for an hour, and because your mind's constantly running, to try and like reset your expectations. But what I have noticed is when I have now gone full time in my business for a couple of years, when I was sort of still doing the plate spinning in the air, like yourself, you become very intentional with the little time you do have.
Sure.
So being, coming home for those 2 hours, like I've got 2 hours, like this is all I've got today. I better make it, you're sort of naturally doing the time cleanse and the time blocking. So it sounds like you're already doing it, but just when you get all that time freedom that comes with quitting your day job and you get 40 hours back in your week, you have to be more intentional. Otherwise you do sometimes slip into this, not procrastination, but distraction.
Yeah.
And one of the big things for me, like I've got a to-do list. to build list, which is my black stuff, all the stuff I want to build this year, and then to stop list. And one of the big things on my to stop list is email. I think email is the worst bloody thing in the world. And so one of my goals for 2019 is to try and hire someone who can maybe filter my emails for me and only give me the real stuff that's, needs my attention. We've got to get involved in this, but we digress a little bit because about you, but mate, tell me a little bit about how you started building your 82 unit portfolio in 3 years, and what type of houses or investments were you buying in Albuquerque, New Mexico?
Yeah, so basically it was just multifamily. I decided right away that multifamily is the way to go. Right, that you can scale, you can get management, and you don't competing with single family owners and sellers and buyers and stuff like that. So I went, I got the introduction through my friend here in Durango, and went and connected with the broker, and he quickly identified a few deals, smaller properties, a couple of fourplexes, and they weren't too expensive, $30,000, $40,000 a door, kind of just Class C workforce. And I was like, hey, let me start there. Got a couple of those.
How many units were they? Sorry,
fourplexes. So two fourplexes. Yeah, got 2 of those. And then shortly thereafter, we ran across this 11-unit property that was seller financed. And that was actually an interesting deal because it needed a lot of work, and we were able to get kind of a term on the seller financing that in 1 year we didn't have to pay anything on the loan for a year. So we kind of just put the cash flow back into the property to kind of fix it up and get it going. So, we had 19 doors in a matter of 6 months or something like that.
Wow. Awesome. So tell me a little bit about that 11 unit and the seller carryback finance, because everyone's like, oh, seller carryback. They love that sort of stuff. And it's really good, but you also can, if you're not aware, you could potentially overpay, right? Because the seller is, I can't get it on the open market. I can't sell in the open market, but here's someone who's willing to give me X amount of dollars for it. So were you trying to be disciplined in the way in which you approached that 11 unit and made sure you valued it on the NOI, not necessarily this sort of fictitious future NOI? Or was it something?
Oh, yeah. No, we were aware of and the price was pretty reasonable. So we were aware of that cost. I think he would have had a hard time selling on the open market just because it needed some work.
Got it.
So we were able to come in with a lower down payment. We kept some equity back for the improvements, and then we were able to repurpose the cash flow in the first year and a half to kind of redo some of those units. So the deal worked out for everybody involved. So
interesting.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then what sort of terms did you negotiate with the seller?
So it's 30-year amortization. I think it was a 7 or 10-year term on it. With there's 5% interest. So
flat.
Yeah.
So no principal.
I'm sorry. Principal and interest after the first year we started. So the first year we didn't pay any, and then after the first year we started paying principal and interest.
Nice. So you had a year of essentially free money, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's awesome. That's better than, I'd have to do the math, but interest only. If you got interest only for 3 years versus a year off of no interest would be probably worth more to 11 unit than 3 years of interest only. But just in my head, I'm trying to do the math. But that's awesome. And so, how did you find that deal? That's something that doesn't just fall into your lap, or did it?
There was just through my the broker had. I was kind of like, hey, got those couple fourplexes. and said, what else do you have, right? And he's like, oh, well, this man fit the bill. I think he had just gotten another broker had said, this is for sale or whatever, and people had just passed on it. I think because they felt, I don't know why, but it was just there, and I kind of acted quickly, and we were able to come to terms on it. So
great, that's awesome. And tell me a little bit about the management of an 11 unit, because I'm in the space of plus 100 where I can afford to have an on-site manager and a professional third party. So how do you go around? Do you do all the management yourself, or do you have someone on site who you subsidize their rent in order to sort of keep a bit of an eye, collect rent, and keep an eye on the property?
Well, so I mean, I do appreciate the larger properties and how that's the way to go for sure, and hopefully we'll get into that, right? No, I have a management company in Albuquerque that takes care of it, and they manage all my properties there. So.
And you have 82 doors in Albuquerque, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, actually 9 of them are locally. So we have, 73 down there. So basically, yeah, they're all managed by the same. And some of these later deals we got into, so after 11 unit, I ended up buying a 38 unit apartment building and I didn't have cash to buy that by myself. So we actually ended up doing like a joint venture between actually my broker who had gotten me the other deals, him and a couple of friends I have here. So we kind of, joint ventured and bought this 38 unit, which is pretty a heavy value add deal. Mm-hmm. So that's one we're working our way through right now. And that was kind of like, it was interesting to grow from like, hey, it's my portfolio to let me get some other people involved in it and let's, do something that everybody's best interest in mind, and grow that way. So that's kind of
yeah, it's a natural way of growing, right? But I think it's also understanding that you see an opportunity. 38 units, it's not a small, for anyone getting started, but trying to just make it happen or make the deal work. You didn't have the money, but bringing on partners and JVing in order to get the deal, you take a lesser slice of the overall deal, but you get it's another run on the board, and it keeps you going towards your goal. So, It's well done. And how did that conversation go down with the JV? Did the broker present it to you? Like, I don't have the money. Do you want a partner, or was it you were trying to rack your brain to determine how you get this over the line?
Well, so I found that deal. Actually, it was listed on LoopNet for, I think, 2 months. I think it's 1.5 or 1.6 million dollars, which may not sound like a lot, but
it's a lot of money. It's still a lot of money.
And but it wasn't worth that. So I went to my broker, and said, "Hey, this looks interesting. Is that something you would like to?" Because we had the conversation. Actually, I said, "I want to go bigger. I don't want to buy these smaller properties anymore." He said, "Well, he's a serial entrepreneur. He owns a lot of stuff, and he just likes investing, and He likes, I think, partnering with new people." Mm-hmm. So I was like, "Hey, is this something that would work?" And he's like, we looked at it, and it made sense. We ended up getting it for 1.2 or 1.25 or something, I think.
Okay. So you got I got about $400K off the original asking price?
Something like that, 350 or something, yeah. And in the meanwhile, I had a conversation with friends and said, "Hey, I'm investing in apartment buildings. I want to go bigger. If I find something that works, would you be interested in investing with me?" That conversation. And I just actually reached out to a couple of people when this deal was saying it was going to happen, and they were, "Yeah, for sure. We want to be in on it." They saw the value of it themselves. So
awesome. And these were friends that you were starting to have conversations with already, like seeing you build from 4 plexes to 11 plex to now there's 38. So they could see the traction happening, right?
That's for sure. Yeah. I've never been shy about talking about what I'm trying to do, and that's really, because my longer term, and I've gotten into is to raise money for bigger deals and, do syndications and everything else. I knew that from like kind of early on. So I've had those conversations, say, this is what I'm doing. And, started creating my newsletter and all these things to kind of stay in front of people early on. So once the deal is there, I'm not just, "Hey, look at me. Do you want to invest?" And like, what are you talking about? No.
Yeah, it's an education. It's a process of education. And I think I also want to quickly touch on, just to highlight to listeners out there that how you had performed with the broker who was giving you the deals, which made that conversation of JVing a lot easier, because you had done, how many deals had you done with that broker before you started discussing the potential of JVing on a 38 unit?
3.
So you had some runs on the board, right? You're a closer, and I think that is a real important. Regardless of the size of deals you're doing, you can snowball from 4 to 11 to 38 to 150 pretty quickly by just doing deals.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a very good example, your story, of how you can ratchet it up pretty quickly. So well done.
Thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about the capital raising side of it, and back to the business of. So, have you developed now, doing all these deals, more of a preference to raising capital rather than being an operator? Because you just mentioned you want to get into syndications more. Yeah.
So, and this is coming back to the time management. I've found it difficult to really spend enough time reaching out to brokers, because that's also, that's doing my work hours. So that creates a challenge right there. So
right.
I felt like just breaking into new markets and spending the time to really get to know the market and the brokers and the players and everything else is something that I haven't really had quite enough time to put enough effort into. So I was like, then I have some other, friends and or people I know that had kind of gone into, same situation, W-2 job. But instead of going out and doing their own deals, they would partner with proven syndicators and help them raise money for their deals, right?
Right.
And that's, I'm sure, is path you've taken too, and stuff like that. And it just makes a lot of sense because I can leverage my network of people that talk to real estate about real estate investing for the last 3 years, right? And then suddenly I can say, well, I now was working with these people in Atlanta to raise money for this 212 unit deal, and this kind of like, this is why I like this deal. Here are the people. So they, I make that connection to them. Right. And I really enjoy going to, have coffee with people and talk about it because I'm passionate about it. And it's just an exciting thing. And most people understand the value of real estate, but they are not, they're just too busy they can't figure out how to go and buy their own property, right? Or they don't have how do I deal with the tenants and the toilets and the termites and that? So here I'm presenting an opportunity that they otherwise wouldn't have. Because these are private placements that you can't go and find anywhere unless you have a connection, right?
Yep. No, I think it's a great snapshot in your journey and how you're evolving. I think as a business owner, as an investor, understanding where's your best time spent, and bit back to that time management we spoke about earlier, and time blocking, but that also snowballs up into what you're talking about now, where you're trying to manage, okay, what's the most effective use of my time? Maybe it's introducing to folks to syndications that they may not have access to. So you're the conduit, right? And back to your IT, you're the conduit. So that's awesome, man. So tell me what is, I guess, I don't love this question, but it's a question I sometimes ask because goals change all the time, but what's the next 5 years got in store for Jens Nielsen?
Well, I got to be careful if my employer listed this, but no, I mean, I do want to get out of my W-2 job in the next 2 or 3 years, something like that. And my goals are really continue to raise money for these syndications, get developed. Well, so I guess that's more the tactical. I mean, the overarching goals are really to be able to replace significant amount of my income so I can free up and really start focusing on real estate full time, and find my own deals and structure my own deals and be the KPs on those. And then I'm really passionate about coaching. I actually do have some coaching students, and I'm trying to, give back because I feel like I'm a fairly structured guy, and I can kind of see the steps that need to be taken in order to get to somewhere. And I think I can help people do that, right? So that's been another. Doing that on the side too and stuff like that. So
that's awesome. Well, mate, I do want to be conscious of your time, but before we let you go, I always ask my guests to give me their top 5 investing tips. You ready to get into it?
Sure.
Mate, what is the number one practice or habit that you practice to keep on track towards your goals?
Basically, a morning routine of setting the stage for the day, look at your goals and be intentional about taking action towards your goals every day.
Love it. And I think that's been the theme of today's conversation, being intentional with your time and that making sure that your mindset's on the right path towards that intentionality. Who's been the most influential person in your career to date?
I think my partner down in Albuquerque, just because he's an older gentleman and he just took me under his wing, and he shares everything that's going on. So I mean, he was a great mentor.
Awesome. What's his name? If you
Chuck Sheldon.
Chuck Sheldon. Hey Chuck, if you're listening. Being that you're in IT, what is the most influential tool, whether it be software or hardware, in your real estate business that you use today?
So I struggled to find a good CRM because I don't know, they all seem so complicated and hard to set up. Even I'm saying that, but so I actually recently started using called Streak for Gmail.
Okay.
Yeah, Streak, Streak for Gmail. It's kind of a CRM built into Gmail, and it's awesome. You create these deal flows and you can move people around. And so I love it. That's
awesome.
really kind of
Streak for Gmail. I'll have to check that out. Is it a new app?
I just heard about it like 6 months ago, so I started using it. But it's just built straight in. So it's there's a free version and that works really well. So.
Okay, Streak. I love it. I love it. Anything that can attach to my Gmail account to make it easier.
Exactly.
I've got Calendly. What else is the other one? I've got Zoom, Calendly. There's one more. Oh yeah, Boomerang, where you can.
Oh yeah, I have that too. Yeah, that's another good
so
one.
Streak. Yeah, cool, man. What has been the big in sort of in 1 to 2 sentences? What has been the biggest failure in your career to date? And it doesn't have to be in real estate. That you've learnt from that is now shaping your future.
The biggest failure?
Yep.
I think being such an analytical mind, I think really I don't necessarily say a specific failure, but just a general awareness of how my personality is. Like trying to go from, especially dealing with sellers directly, that idea of just going from, hey, I know you, to I want to buy your property. Going through that process of really building trust, creating a relationship, a rapport with that person has been something that I'm really have struggled with. So I need to spend. So I guess I've had failures around creating relationships, not spending enough time creating a relationship, going straight to the sale, if you will.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Sort of, yeah. So like hurrying through the courting process, the dating process, getting to know one another, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, mate, last question. Where can people reach you to continue the conversation? They want to find out a little bit more about your story. Where can they go? Yeah,
so my email is Jens, spelled Jens, at opendoorscapital.com. And if anybody want to get on a free call to just kind of talk about real estate investing or cycling or anything like that, they can go to opendoorsinvesting.com/call. We can set up a free call there and, just chat about whatever.
Awesome, man. Well, look, I want to thank you for jumping on the show today. I really want to quickly summarize what I took away from today's show. I think it's that balance, right? The whole narrative around what you're trying to do now is trying to balance the W-2 with being an entrepreneur or changing your mindset and that shift and how you have to be intentional with your time in order to be successful towards your goals. We spoke a little bit about priorities versus goals. I also thinking, anything that's worth doing takes time. And I think that is so important for everyone to realize that when you are trying to plates in the air type of thing, it may take a little bit of time and it's okay, right? Run your own race. And nothing that you do ever that is worth doing ever comes easy. I think that was the last takeaway. Did I leave anything out?
No, I don't think so. I mean, just, create your future, live the future you want right now and just work towards those goals. And that's really what you need to do.
Awesome, man. Well, look, thank you so much for jumping on today's show. Enjoy the rest of your week and we'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Reed. I appreciate it.
Well, there you have it. Another cracking episode jam-packed with some incredible advice from Jens. And if you do want to, reach out to Jens and to ask him any questions, please head over to my website at reedgoossens.com. Click on the podcast link and all the notes from today's show will be up on my website. I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day today to continue to grow your financial IQ, because that's what we're all about here on this show. And we're going to do this all again next week. So take care, be safe. And remember, happy investing.